Okay. Alright, same day everybody. It's still Mark Vogt. We're doing a little bit of shooting about the pond scum hybrid string walking technique. I'm going to do a little bit more shooting. I spread out the target. Now we got one at 15, one at 20, one at 30, one at 40, one at 50. And you're going to see the exact same technique being used. The only thing that's changing is my gap. How do you find out what that gap is? Depends on depends on the weight of the arrow. Depends on the strength of the bow, but it all comes down to how many fingers are you going to use. You can actually measure quite accurately individual fingers, half fingers, quarter fingers, and you can even split the difference between a quarter finger and an eighth of a finger. An eighth of a finger literally is going to give you about 6 inches on one of these targets. So the technique is actually very sound. The next question everybody's going to ask is, what's the range you could do? The range you're going to be able to achieve with this technique is a range on how big a gap you can make in the back, which begs the question, how big is that gap? That gap can be as all the way down to 4 fingers, and that's going to be something very close, quite possibly the 15-yard target. I actually probably only need 3 fingers for 15 yards. And it can be as big as shooting all the way with 1 finger, a Mediterranean grip on the top. You're going to be still tucking your chin right here underneath. It's going to look like this. You're still going to be looking, each time, looking right down the left side of your string. You're going to be putting the tip of the arrow right smack in the center of your target. That's the beauty of this technique, is that you're never aiming at some imaginary target. You're actually aiming at the real target. You're putting the tip of your arrow right smack on the center of the target before you release. And that's what makes, I think, it superior over gap shooting. Gap shooting is too easy to fool in the woods. You can shoot gap all you want on all of these different targets at the range, known distances, and get pretty good. Get pretty good at it. But the minute you're 15 feet up in a tree and you see a bunch of trees that are all at different distances, you're going to lose what that gap is really supposed to be. Will you get close? Yeah, you'll get close. But it's all about trying to take out as many variables as possible. And the idea of anchoring off to the side for different distances, like this, introduces that bank in the arrow that you have to try to compensate for. Anchoring underneath takes that completely out of play. Using the tip of your arrow right here for your front sight and using the left side, these are all things that take all of the left-right completely out of play. So let's try the technique a little bit more. I haven't actually shot 15 meters with these new arrows, but I'm going to guess that if my 20 yard was 2.5, then probably 3. It's going to be a 3 arrow gap for 15 yards. I'm going to draw back, put the tip of the arrow right in the center of the target. We got a deer. Let's turn the camera a little bit and go after the 20-yard target. All right, now we're shooting at 20 yards, exact same arrows, exact same front sight, tip of the arrow on the center of the target, only this time it's going to be 2.5, a slightly smaller gap. Here we go. Shot a little low, it's cold out. No fun shooting in the frost. I'm going to go after 30. Now we're going to go after 20 one more time. I got the arrows. 1, 2, it was 2. We're going to try 2.25 this time. And you'll see that I just went with 2.5, and then you split the difference on 2.5 and you get 2.25. I'm going to slide my fingers down very carefully there. Put the tip of the arrow right on the center of the target. And a much better shot. That's another deer. Now we're going to tip it and go after the 30. Let me get this camera fixed. Tip up a little bit. Okay, now we're aiming at the 30 target. What does my 30 gap look like? It's going to be about 2 minus 1/4, so 2, I'll go 2.5, there's, or 1.5, there's 1 3/4. Slide my finger down to make that gap. Draw back under my chin, left side of the string, look over the top, put the tip of the arrow right in the center. Just a hair high on the yellow, right on the line breaker. But I probably would have got the deer. You know, a heart's pretty big. Let's try after the 40 this time. The 40's the big black round one over there, off in the distance. I only got one arrow left. I only had 5 today. My 40 gap. If my 50 is a half of a finger, then my 40's got to be somewhere between 1 3/4, and we're gonna try a 1 finger gap exactly there, and we're gonna try 40. Draw back, put the tip on the center, let her go. Let's go see what that looked like. Once again, what I'm trying to do with the camera, everybody, is not cut the film at all. So you're really walking up and seeing the results of the string walking technique. Still recording. So there's 15 yards, absolutely a kill shot. There's 20 yards, 1 kill shot and one's off, but like I said, I got 1 straight arrow. So another kill shot at 20 yards. 30 yards, we're right at the edge of the ring. If he was standing still, I'd have still got him. I wouldn't even have spined him at that point. And here's 40. .40's right at the bottom there. On a big enough deer, I would have picked off the bottom of his heart. I'd still be chasing that deer through the woods and I'd get him. So there it is. It's a freezing cold day. You're seeing me use string walking. You have a little bit better idea of how you actually calculate that gap. It's going to be slightly different. Lighter arrows, it's going to be a smaller gap that you actually choose. You're going to get a larger range. Your 4 fingers is going to go from 15 yards all the way out to 80, or 15 meters all the way out to 80 meters. On a heavier hunting arrow, your bottom of your finger is going to give you maybe 10 yards. Your 0 gap is going to give you 50 yards, and you might be able to get 60 by going 1 finger over the top. But to go from 10 to 60 with a single string walking, a traditional technique for shooting, not a compound bow, yeah baby, that's something that you guys all want to check out. All you guys that have had a recurve bow sitting in the closet all these years, but you've become so dependent on the sights that you have on your compound bow and your release, now you got a technique you can go out and try, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be doing what I do. You go back out in the woods with a regular traditional rig, 50-pound, 52-pound recurve bow, and you're going to go back to hunting the way you were supposed to. See you later.